Hello. Actually, I don't need to have the screen up yet. Hold on. Not that one. That one. That's the one. This is the one. This is the screen. All right. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Whatever the case may be for you. It's big homie Snrrlax kicking it at my house, and god damn it. There we go. That's better. It's nasty. Anyways, so we've taken a bit of a hiatus from the channel, so I'm going to address that real quick. Anyways, we've all had a bunch of stuff going on. Thankfully, Preach has done some videos. Pop and Son had a couple of videos come out. Tales from the Toads had some once the hiatus kind of started going on. We have tried to keep up with Three Unwise Men, but schedules have not been the best. There's hair interweaved with my wind screen. Anyways, so yeah, there has been. Let me make sure I'm not muted. Okay, cool. Sorry. So there's just been a lot of scheduling bullshit going on. It hasn't been the easiest. A lot of stuff. I've been working at my normal day job about between 80 and 100 hours a week. So that's anyone who's in the working world knows that that's a lot. If you're not in the working world, don't join until you absolutely have to. Jesus Christ, it sucks. Being an adult sucks. Stay a kid. Anyways, yeah. So we are doing a little bit of reformatting, which has been part of the hiatus. The lack of content has been more of it, while it has been lack of time to do things. We have focused some time on developing ideas and developing what we're doing with the channel. So I do have some videos that are going to be up in the next couple of days. Some that I've recorded weeks ago, even weeks upon weeks ago. I've got a couple of movie reviews that should have been up, stuff that I filmed that is actually going to be out on Blu-ray soon. So that's yeah. I'm kind of slacking on there, kind of slacking on getting that stuff out. Yeah, so that's it's kind of my side of it. Just a lot of work, a lot of focusing on the channel, behind the scenes kind of stuff. There's a new intro video that covers the whole channel at this point, which I'm sure if you watch the beginning of this, you'll see it, because I played it at the beginning of it. Yeah. A lot of my working has been a few things. One, I went to Tampa a couple of days ago. Well, days ago, yeah. Yeah, it was about a week ago, actually. It was a week ago. Went to Tampa. Me and Mr. J went to Tampa because he's moved down to Florida for a little bit. He's going to be down there for a little bit, so that's so he's doing his thing down there with a friend of his. So he'll be down in Florida for a little while. Then I know that Crimson has had a lot of business stuff going on, and so that's kind of taken away from his stuff and his Tales from the Toads videos, and then of course my working. Within all that, we have at least contributed time towards planning. So personally, I've been doing some video work just behind the scenes. I'm setting up an actual area to stream on better than just me sitting on the edge of my bed like I'm doing right now, staring at my TV. I've got a second TV, it's a monitor that actually accepts a lot more inputs than my TV. Like, my TV is super nice. I'm really happy to have a TV as awesome as I have, but it's not good for retro gaming. So there is a monitor that I've found from Japan that accepts everything from like 240p all the way up to 1080p. So that's pretty cool. My actual TV is a 4K TV because I don't have an 8K TV yet, and I'm probably not going to for at least another 4 years. Maybe 8 years, because I don't see that technology being any cheaper and being much cheaper in 4 years. So yeah, but I've got a whole little area that is going to be dedicated to my streaming stuff. It's going to have a workbench because I'm going to be going over modding, because there's a lot of mods that I've got planned that I've got parts for to do already, and soldering is fun to me, so I figure going over a lot of mods and stuff would be pretty cool to do with people. Just kind of let you know what's out there and what exists. So sticking along with the retro thing, since it is retro, since it's old school Sundays on a Monday, Sunday night, it's still Sunday for some people, right? So that's why it's old school Sundays. But the so like a lot of things I'm going to be going over on retro games is stuff like just tips and tricks, like tips, tricks, and tools. So, oh wow, I need to fix that. Oh well. So one thing which I want to show you, which is a tool, or more of a trick. What the fuck is specs? Anyways, I have a PageMaster cart, right? It works very intermittently. I have taken it apart, looked at the circuit board, all the circuits are fine. The EEPROM is on the cart fine. A couple of weeks ago, I had a problem with the EEPROM that was not on the cart fine, and I had to resolder it. But essentially, all it is the pins. I don't know if you can see it. They're just dirty. More so than rubbing alcohol would do. So if you ever get a retro console that's cartridge based, right? Can't get a game to start. What you want to do is get some sandpaper. And I know that sounds horrible, and you don't want to do this very hard, but so I have sandpaper. This is 240 grit sandpaper. Decent fine grit stuff. You can buy a pack of it for a couple of bucks at Walmart, which is where I got mine. That, and then just something that's a little bit more rigid than this. As you can see, this is fairly flexible. You're not going to get a good grip on it. You're not going to be able to control it that well. So here I just have a prepaid Visa gift card, which has been empty forever, and I just took it out of my wallet. But so basically, so this isn't the first thing you want to jump to. You always want to try to clean it with just Q-tip and rubbing alcohol. Just like super high potency rubbing alcohol, because there's multiple potencies, but I always use the higher potency stuff. I think one's like 91% rubbing alcohol. So, but all you want to do is take it and just do a light scrub, right? Not very hard. Just do a light scrubbing, and Yeah, there we go. So before I did that, it was kind of milky. Like, it looked like there was a film of something over it. Now it's gone. Anyways, that's something I have to do with some frequency. So there's a local place to Nashville called McKay's Bookstore. It's a wonderful place to get things at. Their prices are well more than fair. They have really good prices on a lot of stuff. But you kind of get what you pay for. So just because they have a cartridge game doesn't mean it's necessarily going to work. You might have to do cleaning to it. Not an uncommon thing for me to do. So to go over that, here's 2 copies I have of Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter, right? So one's the original printing. This one. This is the second printing of it. It's the second run. So the second, I couldn't get the second run to play. I got this one to play fine. I couldn't get the second one to play, and I just had to run that along the pins real quick. Right as rain, man. Good to go. And again, anytime you have dirty pins, you always want to try and do the least abrasive thing to it. So always, first thing you want to do, alcohol and cotton swab. But let's get into this game. So it has been, I want to say 1998 since I've played a Road Rash game. So 98, 2008, blah, blah, blah. So going on 20 years. It's been going on 20 years since I've played a Road Rash game. I never played this one. I played the original one on Sega, and then I played the port of it on PlayStation. And yeah, so I never played Road Rash 3D. I don't know what the difference is with Road Rash 3D and the original. But let's take a look. All right. Oh, shit. I couldn't even, man, god damn it, I gotta fix that. What's up, Preach? I'm just saying your stuff. Salute. Alright. There we go. Okay, game mode. Thrash. Exit big game, current data will be lost. Yes. Alright. Heart Attack Hill. Okay. Fuck it. Let's go. I have to turn the music off because the music in these games is on the PlayStation versions is legit. Oh shit. Using the D-pad on this sucks. Oh my god, this sucks. This is how I drive in real life. Oh God. Oh God. Oh shit. And there we go. All right. This kind of sucks. So while I'm doing this, let's talk about how I'm playing this. So there's multiple ways, and this is something that I've had a few people ask me about, how I'm playing old school stuff on a newer TV, because that is something that is problematic. The best way to play PlayStation 1 and 2 games is going to be with a PlayStation 3, which is not what I'm using. I don't have a PlayStation 3. It was not a system that appealed to me very much. PlayStation 4, absolutely. PlayStation 4 is a great system. But the PlayStation 3 was just a miss. There was nothing truly special about the PlayStation 3. The game library wasn't that good. There's more hair in my windscreen. I'm planning on buying a motorcycle, so if this is any indication of how I'm going to be driving when I buy a motorcycle, then I probably should not get one. Anyways, I loved Road Rash when I was a kid. It was it was kind of cool because my uncle's always been a biker, and I think he's strung out on the West Coast somewhere at this point. But boom, this is what I always imagined he did. Oh shit. And Jesus Christ, it takes a long fucking time. It takes a long ass time to get back up on your bike. Yay, I came in 12th. Anyways, the let's see, punchy, tough, and loose. This ride can take a licking and keep on kicking. All right. Oh fuck, what was I talking about? Uncle? Possibly. Anyways, I just loved being violent in this game. The one that I actually played. So, oh yeah, before that I was talking about playing retro games on modern TVs. So there's multiple tools you have to use. One thing is an upscaler. So there's multiple ways to get upscalers. So the one that I use for my PlayStation 2, which is how I play my PlayStation 1 games, is so there's two of them. There's a component cable that you can get that I actually use for specifically for my PlayStation 2 games. For PlayStation 1 games on PlayStation 2, let me go back to the component cable. So if you're playing a PlayStation 2 game, its component cables will get you the best possible image that you can get for it. It is something that is a bit of an expensive thing to do. You get the component cable to get a decent one. You're looking at a little bit. There's also a thing that you also need to get an upscaler for component to go to turn component into HDMI and make it a signal that's actually readable by your TV, because most TVs these days don't read a 240p signal. A lot of them don't even read a 480i signal anymore, which is kind of sad. But like, they have that technology wouldn't cost them anything extra really to keep in there. But they cut corners where they can. Anyways, so the thing that I use for upscaling on my PlayStation 2 games on my PlayStation 2 is called a RetroTink 2X. And what that is a line doubler, and it has extremely low latency, which is important when you're playing video games. A lot of TVs nowadays, they also have a a lot of TVs nowadays, they also have a low latency mode, or a game mode, which you also want to turn on. That's absolutely important for getting the lowest latency possible. You'd be surprised what 3 frames drop on one of these old games will do to you. As far as being able to get everything on, like, when you see it, 3 frames is noticeable by me. Not to where I can tell you exactly what's wrong with it, but to the point of where I know something's wrong. I just can't pinpoint it. I'd say 5 frames is gonna be where you can just flat out tell what's going on with it and just be like, oh yeah, there's missing frames. So with that, you definitely want to get something that is going to have low latency. Hence, it's the RetroTink, something I absolutely endorse. It's about $100, and it's pretty fantastic. If it works for more than just the PlayStation 2. So it's got a component, composite, and S-video input. Oh, that's why. I thought it was missing some letters. Anyways, and there's multiple things you can do with it. You can add scan lines in, so it makes it look like an old CRT TV with the old 240p signal being put up to 480i or 480p. And then a lot of those old systems, they have native cables that will go into that, and it does an amazing job, especially for the price. So there's something else you can get called a FrameMeister. They don't make them anymore, so they are sought after. FrameMeister is probably the best possible thing you can do. You're looking at anywhere from $300 to $600. I've seen them go for $600 on eBay. I think that was for a brand one that was still sealed. They stopped making them in 2017, but that is so the Framemeister is the best possible scenario for getting an upscaler for retro stuff. The Framemeister was a unit specifically built for upscaling. It's got the best options for you there. Outside of that, there's a thing called an OSSC, open source signal converter. I think that's what OSSC stands for, open source signal converter. That is personally what I use for Sega. So Sega, there's a thing that a lot of Americans don't know about. It's called a SCART cable, SCART. And what that does what the SCART cable does is that gives you the best possible output that the Sega Genesis can offer, and there's an input for that on the OSSC. You can use the RetroTink on just the standard composite output for a Sega Genesis. So that the OSSC and the RetroTink are two things that are a little bit they're two things that are a little bit pricey to a lot of people. I realize not a lot of people are not everyone's going for every console like I have, so it's understandable. Oh, this handles a little bit better. I like this. I don't like the style of it, but I like the handling on it. The other one's like you turn a little bit and you're just going at it. But so there's a cheaper option for all of this. It's not the best picture quality that you're going to get, but it is something I recommend to a lot of people because it takes a lot of hassle out of a lot of shit. When it comes to the video stuff, I'm trained to know what I want, and I go the extra mile to get as best a solution as I possibly can. Minus getting a PS3. I'm gonna eventually get a PS3 for streaming. Oh, god damn it. But the right deal hasn't come up yet. Specifically, I've got to get the 60 gigabyte launch fat PS3 because that has hardware inside of it, which does which is not necessarily emulation of PS2. The next one up from the 60 gigabyte emulated PS2 and to be backwards compatible, whereas the 20 gigabyte and the 60 gigabyte versions had chips inside of them which actually took care of all of the encoding, and they were chips from the actual PS2, and so that is the best option as far as getting an HDMI signal path for a PS2 game. Dude, he was still on a bike. Shit. But so I digress. There's a company called Pound Technologies, and they sell cables for a lot of systems, and it plugs into the native output. There's no modding required. They have them for SNES, PS2. The PS2 one also works on the PS1. I'll go as far as to say that the PS2, the video on the PS2 is not what I would like it to be. It works fantastic for PS1 games, and it's actually what I'm using right now, just because it was way quicker to connect this than to get everything out that I needed to set up the RetroTink. Again, that's so Pound stuff is not always necessarily the absolute best picture quality you're going to get. It's absolutely usable, and it is something that is going to be the best case scenario for a lot of people. Not a lot of fooling around with it. There's not a lot of options that you go through. There's nothing at all you got to really mess with other than just plugging it in. And that's what a lot of people need, really. A lot of people get bogged down if you give them too many options for stuff. This is, for my money, if it's not me setting it up, like if I was gonna get my brother-in-law a PlayStation 2, I would get him one of these cables, because if I don't, he's going to waste a lot of time asking me 1,000,001 questions that I don't feel like answering and explaining to him, because he's not really going to grasp it at the end of the day anyways. And most people don't need to, honestly, is grasping all of the ins and outs of how the OSSC or the RetroTink or the FrameMeister. There's no need to know how those work if it's not really going to benefit you at the end of the day. I mean, I do a lot more stuff than just video gaming with those tools. But as far as video gaming is concerned, those are the tools that I use. If you want to get into retro gaming and you don't want to fuck around with all of that, Pound Technologies, they really got you ready to go. The cables are $30. Not too bad compared to cost. Fuck you. Not too bad compared to the cost. So especially if you're getting into one system, that is absolutely the best option for damn near anyone. They have SNES. They have Sega Genesis, which is new. They haven't even started shipping them yet. They start shipping them this week, and I'm getting one to try it out. I've got one. I've got PlayStation 2, SNES, Genesis when it gets here, because I pre-ordered mine. Oh, Jesus Christ. Original Xbox, Dreamcast, and they're working on Sega and TurboGrafx. It's not a possible thing to do with the Master System or the NES. There is an HDMI option for NES. It is well more expensive than it's actually less expensive just to get a RetroTink for the NES stuff. Personally, I am going through with a full HDMI mod. The chip alone cost about $130, and you have to know what the fuck you're doing with soldering. It's no joke, because you have to completely desolder the PPU from the board. You have to remove the power source from the motherboard on the NES, and the new chip actually controls all the power. And you have to install chips in line of it, and it's intrusive, but it's not. So the whole system still works as it would. You can still use the RF out. You can still use RF out to plug into a CRT. The only thing about using HDMI is when you do an HDMI, it's going to go out to an LCD TV, and the light gun that you'd use for Duck Hunt will not work with any LCD kind of TV, any kind of HD TV. It's not going to work with it properly. So if you want to play those old school light gun games, you gotta get a CRT. There's no way around that. There is somebody in the modding community that is working on a replacement light gun that will work on LCD TVs. Last I heard about it, last I read anything about it, things were going good on it, but it's still, anytime you get something for a retro console coming from the modding community, there's no telling how long it's going to take. R&D for those kind of things is super restrictive. There's literally maybe 1 to 2 guys that are working on that, so it's something that and they're doing, they have normal jobs and shit, so it's something that really is not it's not something that you want to hold your breath on for any kind of stuff like that. Speaking of mod communities and retro stuff, anyone who knew what the X-Band system was, wonderful stuff that I've recently just found out, because it's not X-Band is a dead service. So for those of you that don't know what X-Band is, and I'll go through this first, and then I will explain the amazingly exciting news. So X-Band was a service. It was it was $20 for a modem. Any kid that grew up in the 90s know what a fucking dial-up modem sounds like. They sound horrible and annoying, but it was a dial-up modem that you could get for your Super Nintendo and your Sega Genesis, and you could play with your friends over a dial-up connection, and it worked. Really worked. So they got everything, they got the latency on that thing down to 1 to 2 frames on most games. They had to go, so when they developed it, they actually had to go buy the game. They had to they had to backwards or reverse engineer the game, figure out what the controls were actually mapped to, and then they had to figure out how to send those controls over the internet. I think they used a 24K modem, if I remember correctly. 24K modem wasn't the most powerful modem at the time, but the reason they did that was compression. So all they needed to do was send the button presses, right? It's all they had to do was send button presses to the other system, and it basically mimicked a second controller being plugged into the system. And you could play anyone. And they had, so the service brought up a UI and the service. So within the service, you would have like a friends list. You would have a email that you got. That's a big thing. email in the early 90s, not a fucking thing for most people. Anyone who had this was likely their first email address. And you could send messages to people. Like, you could play someone, get pit, like, you could beat the shit out of them, and they would send you hate mail. They could beat the shit out of you, and then they would send you hate mail, just like you do on Xbox and PlayStation today. It was $20 for the modem, and then you had to pay so much for service. Right, I think it was like $5 a month, and then for $5 a month you got 50 connection credits. And so what a connection credit was every time you connected to a person. So, but the way they had the connection credits set up, it wasn't like you play one game or you play one match and that's one connection credit, and if you play a second match to the same person, that's another connection credit. It was basically, the connection credit was, you connect to someone and you're with that person until you're done, right? And that was one connection credit. The only bad thing, the real kind of kicker for this, one of the things that really screwed it up, was there was no real way to advertise this at the time. It was something that was really hard for them to advertise. And that was a big portion of it failing. Secondly was dial-up. When it would dial someone's modem, so what it would do is it would connect you with someone that from your previous matches and their previous matches they felt were a decent matchup. Someone that's not going to be overbearingly tough against you, but is going to present enough of a challenge to you, and it would happen on both ends. So what ended up happening is people would be connected to each other's modem for, a couple of hours, and then you'd get your phone bill at the end of the month. Long distance they didn't just do unlimited long distance back then. So you'd have a $230 phone bill, and your parent would be pissed, and they would flip the fuck out. Understandable. I realize these days that a $230 phone bill, for us with cell phones, and we have the whole package and we have multiple phones on the bill, that's, some people are like, really, that's kind of cheap, man. $230, that's it. Kinda. Like, $230 was a lot for a phone bill back then, because you only had the phone in the house and that's it, and you had local calls that you could make. Not that it was really any difference to the phone company wherever you called, but with the long distance being the way it wasn't something that wasn't going to catch on for that reason. You had to make a lot of money in order to be able to really afford to do this, which was a big downfall to it. Oh, come on. No shortcuts? Fuck you. Anyways, so it was, if you've ever used a Game Genie on your SNES or your Genesis, it basically looked like that, and you just had a little plug to plug your phone cord into. So I say all that to say this. There's a group of people in the modding and underground gaming community that have come together and have they've got a lot of the source code from the original guys from Catapult who made the expand. They got a lot of stuff from them, and they are reverse engineering it and reprogramming it, and they are making it work today. So the way that's going to work. Fortnite gaming. No, I am not playing real people. This is all just story mode, man. I don't think they have I don't think they have multiplayer on this game. But so back to what I was saying about the X-Band. They're basically so I realized the first question a lot of people have is how are you getting a old school 24K modem to work on modern systems? And there's a Linksys adapter that's about $15 that you get that will connect your dial-up modem to an Ethernet connection. So that's how that's going to work. But they're building everything out, and they're going to release a patch for that you can download to the X-Band, and from that you can set up your own server, which is going to be kind of cool. So for anyone that wants to play, I have an X-Band on Sega. I do not on SNES. But anyone on Sega that wants to play Mortal Kombat 1, 2, or 3, I will be able to do that online with you. And it'll be fucking awesome. Okay. So that's I'm super excited about the X-Band. That's something that I didn't get to experience it as a kid. We didn't have money for that kind of shit. I feel like there's a lot of stuff in X-Band that was developed by them that really modeled what we have today as far as online gameplay. It's funny, I watched a documentary about it, and one of the guy was talking about when they went to Nintendo of America, and Nintendo of America basically, like, their engineers told the CEO of Nintendo America at the time that was just an impossible thing to do. And he basically, like, they showed him that they made it work, and they developed the whole thing in like 4 months and got it ready to go. And so he marched his whole engineering team into the office with those guys and just shoot them the fuck up, like ate those guys alive, which is fucking awesome, kind of awesome and kind of hilarious at the same time. And like, God, it's anyone that had a Sega Saturn, there was the Sega Network, I forget what I think it was called, the Sega Net Connect or whatever. It was the same basic thing, and that was actually designed by the same team at Catapult. And what they did was they worked with Sega. They designed the cart that plugged into the back. That's why the Sega Saturn has a cartridge slot in the back. Sega Saturn doesn't play Sega games, but it has the same cartridge style in the back because they already had a proprietary format going for the Genesis. So it was easy to adapt that way. And that was functionality for it. I think there was also other ideas on what Sega was going to do with the slot in the back, but I don't think any of it ever came to fruition. But the one thing that did come to fruition is I think it's called the Net Connect, and it was, oh, thank you. It was absolutely integral. I'm not gonna say absolutely integral, but so Sega controlled those servers. The wine taster, the expressway. Damn. I didn't see that first question. Fortnite, sorry. And you're already gone. So, anyways, this game is probably 20 years old. So, anyways, back to the important shit. So yeah, I'm super excited about X-Band being a thing again, because it was something I didn't get to experience as a kid. I mean, a lot of people didn't get to experience it, but that was really the first major foray for Americans into online gaming. There really wasn't online gaming before that here. You had really niche things, way more niche than that was. And we're talking about like X-Band's user base was fairly small. I mean, gaming at the time was a joke, you know. We had fucking people talking about Mortal Kombat ruining kids' lives and stuff. Like, gaming was a bit of a joke at the time compared to what it is now. With the amazing advances that we've had, a lot of this stuff does rest on what was built then. So when X-Band came out, you got your service, you created a username. That username was your email, and you would be able to email people from that box. And so that was new to a lot of people. So that's, we have that in our online games today. We have the ability to message people, and that all comes, I mean, that's kind of where that started. You had an avatar that you picked out, and it was basically a picture on that system. But on Xbox Live, you have an avatar. On PlayStation, you have a picture which represents you, as your avatar. So it's something that X-Band is really way ahead of its time, which was... Oh, good. I didn't realize that was the end of it. Uh, anyways, so this thing was made by a couple of guys. Like, I'm not gonna say a couple of guys. I think there's like 150 people that worked at Catapult, but the main team of guys was some guys that worked. There was a couple of guys that did video game programming that started this, and then there was some guys that worked at Apple that were some of the first ones to join on. Right, and they were just a bunch of nerds that said, "Hey, this is a really awesome idea. If I could play this, if I could play all of my video games um, at home versus my friend that's at home, that's that's the future of this." And they saw that, 20 years ago, 20 or 25 years ago, even, you know. So it's something that they saw how amazing it could be, and unfortunately the rest of the world didn't. They were way ahead of their time. The rest of the world didn't really catch up from what we'll say a decade. Took damn near a decade for the rest of the world to catch up when Xbox Live and PlayStation really kind of started their stuff, and it kind of caught on. So I mean, it's I think after that, PC was really what brought it in. PC kept it going. So, and they did have an X-Band service on PC as well that they were testing on, and it never actually launched because the company went under before it launched. There was also a version of it in Brazil that they basically sold the parts to a company. There was a company in Brazil that basically released their own versions of the Sega Genesis and the Sega Nomad, and I think they did the Sega Master System as well. But they basically, because these companies couldn't get into Brazil, oh yay, the game froze. Well, that's about a bitch. Okay. It's always something, man. Uh, so I don't know what I'm going to play at this point. Anyways, so what do I want to play? Let's not play anything. Okay. Not too bad. So let's talk about one thing I want to go over real quick. One mod that recently got done for me because he was my boy Joey at Super Game Video Games in Nashville is super awesome. It's something I could have done myself, but it's a super quick thing to do. And so this is my own 64 controller. One thing that's going to be different is this. Right, so as you can see, it's not as deep right there. The reason why is this is a GameCube stick. Right, so yeah, there's a mod out there for you that you can get a GameCube stick for your N64 controller. I highly recommend doing that. So it works. And it feels really awesome. They really don't make replacement sticks that are like the original ones that are any good anyways. So your best bet is to go for the GameCube style stick if you need a replacement. So I know after a certain while your game sticks start to wear out, and that is something that sucks. Personally, mine was basically leaning beyond the dead zone. So with all the controllers, there's a certain dead zone within there, and it was leaning. It was so loose that it was just automatically walking. So, but anyways, so there's that. And last but not least, something that I haven't shown on the channel yet. I finally got something that I ordered a while ago. It's a Retro Fighter 64 controller. This is fucking awesome. I think I may have done my initial testing with it. But it's worth showing again. This is, I think, the first time I've actually shown it on camera. This is absolutely worth the $40 you're going to spend to buy it. It feels a lot better than the old school N64 controllers. As much as nostalgia is awesome and all that good shit, there's still something to be said about having a controller that actually fits your hand. So that's where that thing comes in. It's about $40, absolutely worth it. Nothing that I've said here has been a paid endorsement. Nothing about Pound Technologies has been a paid endorsement. I don't get anything free from anyone. These are all just my own findings, my own opinions. So yeah. So takeaway from today's episode: if you want to get into retro gaming, there's lots of options for you. It can get overwhelming if you're just digging into it and you're going to a forum and you're gonna get everything from all sorts of different shit from all sorts of different people, and ultimately just doing what's right for you ultimately is what's important. There's lots of options that aren't that expensive out there, so if you get an old school system, You have Pound Technologies to help you out with getting it on your modern TV. Nothing they make is perfect, but it's all about convenience and price. If you want it to be perfect, you're looking at spending, $300 to $600 to get just something that's going to blow you away and just look fantastic from your Super Nintendo. As far as how clean it looks. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's but as far as getting into it without breaking your wallet too bad, Pound Technology is the way to go. I was too lazy to get everything for my PS2 set up the way that I should get it set up, because honestly, just the HDMI looks fine on the stream compared to what it looks like on my TV, but my TV is good enough. It looks good enough on the TV to where I can absolutely play anything. The reaction time is fantastic. There's extremely low latency on the Pound stuff, which is why I can recommend it. Ultimately, latency is going to be your big thing when you're getting into retro stuff. Outside of that, lots of cool things in the retro world to look forward to that are coming up. Light gun that's going to work with HD TVs. X-Band is coming back. If there's enough people that have the X-Band stuff, then I will totally pay for a server for people to play on. That's like I'm not gonna block anyone from that. That's the super important thing to me is connectivity, right? And so that's what X-Band is. Anyways, juggalos, juggalettes, gamers, everyone else, have a wonderful day.